Hello and welcome to the Bald Man Cave. If you stumbled across this channel, it's probably because you've started losing your hair and you went online looking for answers, looking for what to do next. And that's exactly why I created this channel is I wanted to create videos and content that I wish I had had when I was in my early 20s and I started losing my hair. And today I want to talk about hair transplants. There is a lot of pressure today for guys to get a hair transplant the second they start losing their hair. I see it all the time online. I've even started to see it in person as well. For instance, let's say a guy posts a video on TikTok where he says, I think I'm losing my hair. I think my hairline's receding. I think my hair's thinning. And all of the comments will be, yep, time to book that hair transplant. Time to get to Turkey, bro. And if you don't know what that means, Turkey has started to really become known for doing hair transplants. It's become kind of a destination where a lot of guys from the US and other countries will fly to Turkey, book an appointment to stay there for a few days, get the hair transplant, do a little bit of recovery before coming back home. So anytime you hear time to get to Turkey, bro, that's what it means. It means time for a hair transplant. And I want to talk about what this means for us. I think because there is so much pressure now to get a hair transplant just because you're losing your hair, that a lot of guys probably feel like they need to get one, even if maybe they don't really want one. And I actually got a hair transplant myself, although this was about 10 years ago. So things were a little bit different back then. Flying to Turkey to get a hair transplant was not really a thing like it is today. So I actually got a hair transplant from a local surgeon in the city I lived in at the time. And there's a couple reasons why I kind of regretted getting that hair transplant. The main one is that I only got the hair transplant thinking that it was going to fix all of my insecurities without realizing that I already had insecurities before I even lost my hair. And I should say, I knew I had insecurities, but for whatever reason, when I started losing my hair, that became insecurity number one by far. And so I thought that by fixing that problem, that I would no longer be insecure anymore. In reality, I had a lot of things I was insecure about. And so by getting the hair transplant done, that fixed the issue of not having hair, but it did not fix my issue with insecurity. I was still incredibly insecure about my hair. Even after the hair transplant, once the hair started growing in, I would still be constantly stressed out about my hair just as much as I was when it was thinning. So even though after the hair transplant and the hair was coming in and I had, a thicker head of hair, I was still really insecure about it. I was still worried about what people thought of me. I was worried that people might have known that I got the hair transplant and they judged me for it. I was worried that people could tell I got a hair transplant because maybe the hair in the front of my head didn't look as natural as the rest of my hair. So I had deeper insecurities that I needed to work through personally. And so my purpose in making this video today is that if you're somebody who's thinking about getting a hair transplant, what you really need to consider is this the thing that I'm really insecure about? Or do I have other issues that I need to work through? Because a hair transplant on its own may not resolve all of your issues. So before booking that appointment, before booking that trip to Turkey, do some real soul searching to determine what it is that you're really feeling insecure about. If you've been feeling great about yourself up to this point and you've been losing your hair and it's just that one thing that's kind of bothering you, go ahead and move forward with the hair transplant. They've gotten much more affordable these days. And if that's just that one thing that's kind of bothering you, then I'm all for it. But if you have other issues that you might need to work through, if you were insecure before you started losing your hair, just consider that maybe your hair is not the only issue and that there may be other things you need to work through. I also want you to consider that if you're thinking about a hair transplant, is it because you want one or is it because there's so much pressure from other guys to get one? And this is what I find really interesting about this whole hair transplant thing. When I see a guy post a video talking about his hair loss and that he's insecure about it, all of the comments that tell him to go to Turkey or to get a hair transplant, they're all from other guys. Very, very rarely. I don't think I've ever seen a comment from a woman saying that, yes, you need to go get a hair transplant. In fact, quite the opposite. A lot of times the comments from women say things like, Don't worry about it. Hair is not important. I love a bald head. I love the bald look. I see those comments from women way more often. Again, the comments from men are all about, yep, get the hair transplant. You need to get it done. You need to get it done ASAP. And my theory is that it's mostly from other guys who are just projecting their own insecurities onto somebody else because they are probably feeling insecure about their own hair loss. And so they're telling somebody else, yep, you need to go ahead and get your hair fixed. So again, really consider why it is that you are thinking about getting a hair transplant. Is it because it's that one thing that just kind of bothered you and you just want to have a full hairline back? Or is it because you've been feeling societal pressure from other people to get this done? I think if you can determine which of those two things is influencing you, that's going to be what makes the decision for you. Because even though hair transplants have come down in cost, they're still expensive. It's still going to cost you several $1,000s. It's going to cost you time, whether you are booking an appointment in Turkey or locally. There's going to be recovery time. There's going to be things that you're going to need to do after the hair transplant. You're going to continue to need to be on a medication. They're going to want you to potentially do a second hair transplant, just depending on different factors. If you're very young when you're getting your first hair transplant, it's possible you may continue to lose hair and you may need a second one in the future. So make sure you're considering all these factors before booking that appointment to Turkey. But look, I just want to say again, I am not against getting a hair transplant. However, now that I've gone through the hair transplant, gone through all the insecurities about my hair, and finally got to the point where I could just shave it all off, I can tell you that for me personally was the absolute best choice. Once my hair was gone, all of my anxiety, all my insecurities went away with it. And for me, that's what I was looking for from the very beginning. I just didn't want to deal with the anxiety anymore. And that's what my thinning hair was giving me. It was giving me a ton of anxiety. And I just wanted to be rid of that. I thought that the hair transplant would be the solution to it. In my case, I was completely wrong. That made me more insecure. That made me more aware of my hair than ever. And so after I just shaved it all off, all of that just went out the window almost immediately. To close out this video, again, I'm all about doing things that make you feel good and make you feel confident, but I just want to make sure that you're doing them for the right reasons. Make sure you're really thinking this through. You're not just succumbing to societal pressures to do things a specific way just because that's what others are telling you to do. At the end of the day, we all have to do what's best for us. For me, the best case scenario ended up being just shaving my head and getting rid of my hair entirely so I didn't have to worry about it anymore. You might be different, but if you've been on the fence, I would encourage you to just go ahead and try shaving your head now, because in many cases, when you go to get a hair transplant, they're going to want you to cut your hair very short, if not shave it all the way down anyway. You may as well give it a try now. And if you like it as much as I've liked it, you may end up saving yourself several $1,000s, as well as years of anxiety down the road as well. I would love to know your thoughts about hair transplants and this whole idea of booking that trip to Turkey. And I would love to know if you're feeling pressure to do so, or if you feel like you're just at the point where you're ready to move on from your hair and you're ready to shave your head. And I would appreciate it if you would like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.